Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like
Hi, and welcome to Straight Talk About God video. I'm Jack. Who is Israel? Finding the lost tribes. See, are the lost tribes lost to history? Well, if not, then how can we find them? Well, the Bible has nothing to say about them, about the house of Israel, the 10 tribes, after Assyria conquered them, conquered Assyria, conquered the capital city of Samaria, 721 BC, and then relocated all the tribes, over about 25 years actually, up into northern Mesopotamia, up to the Caspian Sea and underneath the Caucasus Mountains in the Black Sea. Well, did they just disappear, get absorbed into the countryside and all the people? Well, you got to remember how many people there were, okay? The house of Israel were 10 states of the United States, okay? It was the United States of Israel, 10 of them. Well, take 10 states of the United States and how many people you got? 100,000? Millions. There were 5 or 6 million people, plus hundreds of thousands of Jews that were carried along with them. That was a lot of people. You don't just absorb 5 million people, okay? Well, what happened to them? See? Well, we're going to use the back door to history, using the Bible prophecy to find the house of Israel, okay? Now, there's maybe 300 or more prophecies given in the Bible to the house of Israel. Okay, we're going to read maybe 15 or 20 of them here. Okay, first of all, who is Israel? So I'm going to just read a bunch of verses. Okay, and I'm not going to superimpose these over the screen. Okay, just the notation at the bottom is all you're going to get. Look it up here. I'm going to read the whole thing. Okay. See? Isaiah 41:1, okay? Keep silent before me, O islands. O islands. God says, you islands, whoever they are, keep silent. Okay? Keep silent before me, O islands, and let the people renew their strength. Renew their strength. They must have lost a lot of strength. They're going to renew their strength, take a rest. Little R&R. Renew their strength. Let them come near, let them speak, let them come near together in judgment. And that's the end of the verse. But the reason I started with that is because I call the book of Israel, the book of Isaiah, the book of Israel. Because especially starting at 41 all the way through to the end of the book, 66, it's prophecy to the house of Israel as they will relate to and be affected by Christ. And lots of the prophecies before chapter 41 are still to the house of Israel. Mainly the house of Israel is what we're talking about here. So we'll go to 49. 49:1. Here's the isles again. Listen, O isles, unto me, and hearken, ye people from far. From far, far from where? From the Holy Land, where God stays. People from, this is God talking, right? People from afar. The Lord hath called me from the womb. From the bowels of my mother, he made me mention of my name. Verse 2, And he hath made my mouth a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand he hath hid me, and made me a polished shaft. In his quiver he hath hid me. Verse 3, and said unto me, Thou art my servant, O Israel. He didn't say, Thou art my servant, O Isles. He's talking to Israel. So he says, Listen, O Isles, you're my servant, Israel, in whom I will be glorified. Did the Chinese glorify God in Christ? No. The house of Israel brought God to the world. The British and American Bible societies went everywhere. Okay, Isaiah 51, verse 5. My righteousness is near, my salvation is gone forth, and mine arm shall judge the people. The isles, not any old isles, not Crete, not Malta, no, not Sardinia, the isles wait upon me, and my arm shall they trust. The isles. Now, just so we go to second voice in here, God repeats himself. Pay attention, okay? Second voice of Jeremiah. Jeremiah 31, 7 through 10. For thus saith the Lord, sing with gladness for Jacob. That's Israel, right? The house of Israel. It's another name called Jacob. The house of Judah is never called Jacob. Okay? And shout among the chief of the nations, publish ye, praise ye, and say, O Lord, save thy people, the remnant of Israel. Verse 8, behold, I bring them from the north country. I bring Israel from the north country. To where? To the Holy Land. Well, the British Isles, the Isles, are north. There's another prophecy in a different book that says they'll gather the tribes from the northwest. The northwest up to British Isles. Okay? Verse 8. And I will bring them from the north country and gather them from the coasts of the earth, and with them the blind and the lame and the woman with child, and her that travaileth with child together. A great company shall return thither. Thither. I'm going to gather them and bring them back to the Holy Land. I would guess that maybe 75 or 80% of all the prophets talk at one point about the gathering of all the tribes back into the Holy Land. Okay. Verse 9, they shall come with weeping, and with supplications will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of the waters, the straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. I am father to for I am father to Israel. And just so we know it isn't all 12 tribes, he says, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Who's the head tribe of the lost tribes of Israel? The house of Israel. Ephraim. Ephraim got the birthright. They're the nobility. And they're the nobility of Britain. They're the tribe that went to Britain and set up shop. They're the headquarters tribe of the whole lost tribes, right? Verse 10. Verse 10. Hear the word of the Lord, O ye nations, and declare in the isles afar off. You see, the same thing as Isaiah. The isles afar off, and say, he that scattered Israel will gather them, and keep them as a shepherd doth his flock. Remember, Hosea said he was told by God to name his first child Jezreel, because that's what's going to happen to the lost tribes, to the house of Israel. Jezreel means scattered. Sow, a person sows, scatters seed. Okay, that's who Israel is. It's the British Isles. Okay, that's who Israel. Now, what about an empire? Empire. Okay, Genesis 17, verse 4, talking to Abram. Okay, as for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, God talking, and thou shalt be the father of many nations. A lot of nations. His descendants weren't a lot of nations in the Holy Land. There were only two, That's not a lot, okay? In Genesis 35, still before he was called Abraham, 35 verse 11, God says, "And God said unto him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations." That's a world empire. A company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thee, out of thy loins. Okay, and let me remind you that, as we'll see in another prophecy here, one of Abram's main prophecies was that his descendants would be like the stars and the sand of the sea. They never were that in the Holy Land. They weren't a company of nations in the Holy Land. That's part of the birthright, and that didn't kick in until 1800. Now, other prophecies say that they were going to spread everywhere. Okay? Genesis 28:14. "And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth. Thou shalt spread abroad to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. And in thy seed and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed." They're going to go everywhere. North, south, east, west, everywhere. All the way east to Japan. Look that up. Now, in Deuteronomy 33:17, when Moses is passing out the blessings and the prophecies to the people before they go into the Holy Land, he says, "His glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns. With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth." They'll go everywhere. "And they are the 10,000, who are those people? The 10,000s of Ephraim, the head tribe of the lost tribes. And they are the thousands of Manasseh, his brother." Right? Isaiah 27:6. Okay? "And he shall cause them to come of Jacob, that come of Jacob, to take root. Israel shall blossom and bud, and fill the face of the world with fruit." They're going to go everywhere, spread everywhere. That's not the Jews. When he says Israel will blossom, he's not talking about Israel, the Jews. That's Judah. See, the house of Judah was never called Israel, but the house of Israel was called Israel by itself. And what you have to do when you run into the word Israel is get the context, whether it means the man or the people, all 12 tribes, or the house of Israel. Also, a lot of prophecies talk about them winning all their wars. They're undefeatable, totally defeated, undefeatable. Okay? Isaiah 54:17, after their it starts out, "Sing, O ye barren." And that's the house of Israel. They didn't supposedly have any kids because they were lost. See? 54:17 says, "No weapon formed against thee shall prosper." Prosper completely, okay, is what it means. It doesn't mean they won't lose a war or a battle. It means that they won't ever be completely taken over, as was the case with Britain. What happened with Britain? Rome couldn't beat Britain, so Hadrian built the wall. Couldn't beat them all. They were never completely beaten. Okay? "And every tongue that shall arise against thee in judgment, thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me, saith the Lord." No weapon formed against them. Isaiah 41:15. "Behold, I will make thee a new sharp threshing instrument, having teeth. Thou shalt thresh the mountains, and beat them small, and shalt make the hills as chaff." Verse 16, "Thou shalt fan them, and the wind shall carry them away, and the whirlwind shall scatter them, and they shall rejoice in the Lord and the glory of the Holy One of Israel." Verse 17, "When the poor and the needy seek water, and there is none, and their tongue shall fail for thirst. I, the Lord, will hear them, and I, the God of Israel, shall not forsake them. And remember the beginning verse of 41? Be silent, O isles. This is still the isles he's talking about in verse 17 of 41. For a second voice, we get Micah verses 8 and 9 from chapter 5. And the remnant of Jacob is another name, not for Judah. Judah was never called Jacob, but Israel was. The house of Israel was called Jacob. Okay. The remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles, spread everywhere, in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as the young lion among the flocks of sheep, who, if he go through, both treadeth down and treadeth in pieces, and none can deliver. I conquer a lot of stuff and never be beaten by them. Verse 9, thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries, and all thine enemies shall be cut off. Whew. And Jeremiah says pretty much the same thing, because in chapter 51, verse 20, thou, talking to Israel, thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. For with thee I will break in pieces the nations, and with thee I will destroy kingdoms. Who was mainly responsible for winning the war against Napoleon, the First World War against the Kaiser, World War II, Hitler, Korea, the Western Allies, headed up by British and the United States. Israel. Right? Now there's a couple of two prophecies. God repeats himself, talks about when all those descendants show up, 1800 and beyond, okay, they're going to possess the gates of their enemies. Genesis 22:17. That in blessing I will bless thee. God blessing Abraham. And in multiplying, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven and as the sand which is upon the seashore. Okay. And when that time happens, thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. That didn't happen in the Holy Land, right? They didn't possess the gates of the Philistines and the Babylonians. Well, we got the defined gates in 1800 and beyond. What gates? We got a world population, so we'll get the world gates. What are the world gates? The Suez Canal, the Panama Canal, Straits of Gibraltar, Cape Horn, Cape of Good Hope, the major trade gates of the world. Starting around 1800. Who controlled all of those gates? Britain and the United States. The gates of their enemies and the people who hate them. Right? Genesis 24:60 is God repeating himself to Rebekah. Rebekah is going to marry Isaac. She's on the way home to marry Isaac, and her relatives are saying goodbye, and they tell her, and they blessed Rebekah and said unto her, thou art our sister. Thou art the mother of thousands of millions, 1 billion people, and let thy seed possess the gate of those who hate them. Same promise. They're also going to control the seas. The seas. Whoa, okay. Who controlled the seas from 1600 on? Well, the French had a big fleet. They had a big navy. They were tough on the seas, and so were the Dutch, weren't they? Yeah, the Dutch. And the Spanish Armada. Oh, yeah. But who was the biggest and the best? Beat them all. The British, right? The British. Control of the seas. Numbers 24:7. He shall pour the water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters. Many waters. And his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. Some kind of Israelite's going to control the water somewhere. Isaiah 60, we're back to Israel again from Isaiah 60. Then shalt thou see and flow together, and thine heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee. Thy heart shall be enlarged. You get the abundance of the sea. And the forces, which means the wealth of the Gentiles, the forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee. They're going to be of control and get a lot of good stuff from being in control of the sea. Israel. Psalm 89 is talking mainly to David, but it still talks about control of the sea, right? I will set, 89:25, I will set his hand also in the sea and in the right hand of the rivers. Okay? And Solomon was all over the oceans looking for gold and stuff with the Phoenicians, right? And specifically, in Deuteronomy 33:19, Moses again is passing out blessings and prophecies to the tribes before they go in, okay? And he talks to Zebulun, and he says, they shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices and righteousness. Okay, that could be anybody, anywhere, and had nothing to do with the ocean. For they shall suck the abundance of the seas. Well, there's a lot of stuff in the sea, but fishing and, heavy fishing, and the Dutch. Who is Zebulun? That's the Netherlands. The Netherlands are Dutch, okay? Zebulun. For they shall suck the abundance of the seas, and treasures hid in the sand. Now, what nation on earth has had more on a daily basis to do with the sea than the Dutch? They're the ones that held back the sea and built all the dikes and everything, didn't they? Right? And they invented those special fishing vessels with double nets on both sides of the ship, right? Are they lost? No, they're not lost. You use the back door of history and find the people who line up with these prophecies. And you're not going to find them in Africa or South America or Asia or China. You're only going to find them in Northwest Europe and the British Isles, because that's where the lost tribes are. Okay? Thanks a lot for watching. God bless.